Welcome back. Thank you for joining me on my Godzilla journey. We are getting there. We are almost done, sort of. Godzilla is done, and that is the most important thing. Need to work on this background. I am going to go into time lapse and I am just going to crank it out. Obviously, get this major picture plane covered with ephemera and also cover these sides like we talked about in the very first video. I'm going to go ahead and get to that, and when I'm ready to put Godzilla on, I'll talk you through that process also. So let's get started. We have the moment of truth nearly upon us, and that is about adhering Godzilla to the back of the cradle board, or to the front of the cradle board, on top of the ephemera I've placed here. I am taping these pieces that I want in this area. Not sure if I'm going to keep them there or not. And I'll have to tuck them under Godzilla to do that. Also, I want to put more ephemera on top of Godzilla. So I think this means I need to simply put Godzilla on to the board at this time. I'm still thinking about this area. I'm not sure if I want this other map of Japan here. We already have one here. I need to think about this just a little bit more before I actually adhere him to the cradle board. A little bit of explanation. I changed this area quite a bit. I had an image of Japan here and it was too much. So we needed some blank space so Godzilla would stand out. I also added more to Godzilla, some darker elements. So he stands out and goes all the way to the edge. So when I come back, Godzilla is going to be adhered to this board. How am I doing that? I will be using my trusty Mod Podge. I also have some spray adhesive that I'm going to put on the back of Godzilla. The Mod Podge also will be on the cradle board so we can ensure that we have a really good fit and it's not going to go anywhere. I've been using packing tape to build Godzilla. And does packing tape and spray adhesive and wood get along? Pretty much. I'm going to create a surface on the back of Godzilla that will create tooth with that packing tape surface because, as you know, with packing tape, it is very plasticky and very smooth, and just putting any type of adhesive on here is going to make for a slippery surface and may not stick to the board. So I'm going to go to time lapse and I'm going to start scoring Godzilla, and when we come back I will have him attached to his cradle board. Just sharing a little bit of this process. I am holding this X-Acto knife very lightly and simply drawing it across the surface of the plastic packing tape and also the surface of the magazine ephemera. It also is very shiny and can use the help of the scoring to create that tooth for the adhesive, but I am by no means going in deep, just barely scratching the surface. I'm holding it very lightly with not even my index finger because I really don't want to press too hard. Just enough to score that surface and obviously not affect the image on the front. So just a little bit of scoring here. Got that money, the vintage money I used. This orb, the back of this orb, this was a National Geographic, and I love the ephemera, and the ephemera is also very shiny and plasticky for paper, so it's really important that I give it some nice scoring. May have to go over this a couple of times just to make sure every bit of surface is covered to give it opportunity to connect with that wood or paper on top of the background. So as you can see, got some scoring going on here. Feeling good about that. Let's see, this is a stamp. The stamps in money are pretty strong, like I mentioned before, because they go through transit and many human hands. So, but they have good tooth also. Regular paper, like just regular paper in general, has good tooth because of the fibers. But it's this beautiful magazine paper with photography. You have to deal with that matte surface or that shiny surface. Okay. You might be able to see, I'm not sure, the scoring that we did here. Okay, and even up at the top here, make sure everything gets scored as much as possible. I'm not spraying this inside the house, actually, as you probably can tell, because spray adhesive is kind of noxious, and I don't want that lovely aroma in the house, and it's not good to breathe anyway. And I don't like using spray adhesive too much anymore. It's not great for the environment. It's a great tool, and I do love what it does, like it did for this background. It adhered it nice and clean, and I really like that. But I do use my spray adhesive in very limited as possible. When I started my channel, I used spray adhesive for a lot of those collages. I don't regret it, but I try to stay away from it because, again, I don't like what it does to the environment, but that's just me. So, alrighty. I think we've got this looking pretty good. Let me just double check Godzilla. See, he's fine. We didn't press too hard, so you can't see those little knife marks. We should be okay. And I'm going to go spray him and attach him to his new home. Before I attach Godzilla, I am actually going to put some of that Mod Podge onto the surface of the background. I'm going to dab it off a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and directly apply onto the wood for sure. Kind of want to stay away from the paper because I don't want it to buckle too much. Okay. Yeah, I almost forgot that. Let's go ahead and just make sure there's a little bit of tack and not a lot of glue. A lot of glue is not that necessary for this because we do have the spray adhesive going on, but wherever I see some wood, I'm going to go ahead and dab a little Mod Podge. Again, not a lot, just enough because we have the spray adhesive going on in a minute. And I kind of marked where I want to place Godzilla with this blue drafting tape. So before this dries, I'm going to run outside and spray Godzilla. Moment of truth here. I have a nice layer of spray adhesive underneath Godzilla, along with that Mod Podge. Overlapped some of the ephemera, I could remove this now, my little placemaker. And I think this should be successful. Oops. As long as I don't hurt anything. Just using wax paper to seal it on to do the job. Clean sheet of wax paper. I am very happy with the way this is turning out. It's just been a very, very fun project. But I want to make sure he is not going anywhere. And to be on the safe side, I am going to place a large book or two on top of him to make sure my cat doesn't bug him in the middle of the night and that he can stick good and tight to his new home. I'll just go ahead. Let's see, it looks okay. Should be all right. See, I did overlap a lot of this because I don't want any wood to show. And I can cut it away later, or I can fold it over to make it part of the edge, but I think I'm just going to cut it. I'm not sure yet. I'll figure that out in the morning. He's gonna take a nap, and I'm gonna take a nap. Well, I'm gonna go to bed. Oh, it's a little early, but I'm gonna unwind from my little Godzilla project. And he has been a lot of fun. It's taken me a while to get done just because there's life going on in the middle of all of this. Anyway, say goodnight to Godzilla, everybody. He'll be back in a few hours. We are here the next morning, and these are the magazines and the books that were keeping Godzilla in place. Time for the big reveal. So a couple of thick books, lots of magazines, and a piece of wax paper. I am very pleased with the way Godzilla is looking in his new home. He's been sitting like this for about almost solid 24 hours. Well, not quite 24 hours. Definitely about 18 hours in place, so he's not going anywhere. This is his new home. He's not going to slide off. Yes, very, very happy with the way this is turning out. I'll be cutting off this excess later, probably at the very end as cleanup. But there's still more work to be done, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to finish him off right now. Just a quick note, because I'm applying magazine paper on top of more magazine paper, like I did right here just now, I want to score the back of the top piece. Again, just like I did for the Godzilla collage itself, applying it to the wooden cradle. If I am dealing with smooth surface on smooth surface, one of those surfaces should be lightly scored with this X-Acto knife. I am not pressing hard at all, just creating some tooth so both pieces can adhere to each other and live happily ever after. I'm working on the sides now, and I'm fortunate enough to have enough leftover imagery to make the sides even. So here's the blank side I'm about to work on, and here's the side that I just finished. So as you can see, we're going to be repeating this imagery on this side. I might add more imagery here, or I just might leave it alone. These sides, I'd like to keep them clean and covered and look pretty, but they're not the focal point that Godzilla is. I'm just thinking about if somebody is rounding the corner in the house and they happen to see the sides, I just want them to be able to see some imagery as it's related to the main image. So that's what I'm doing here. Otherwise, the raw wood, it would be okay, I guess, but I like covering my sides. That's what I tend to do with my decoupage. So I'm going to get back to work here. This is the part I'm not crazy about, only because it's a craftsmanship issue, so it's time for a new blade. And I did this on the other side too, as well as the other corners. I think I may have done most of it off of camera, but I'll just show you up close what I'm going to be doing next. And that's just making sure this paper will be flush with the cradle board. And it's fairly easy because the cradle board acts as my straight edge, which isn't great. I prefer not to do things this way because you can see now the wire's also going to be kind of messing me up a little bit. But I'm going to go as carefully as I can and just try to make those cuts. I want to use this wax paper to protect the image from my mat board. And when I do this also, I try to press down as hard as I can to make sure I have a clean cut, but that's a problem too, because when you press down really hard, sometimes it causes that magazine paper to scrunch up, because in the end, although the magazine imagery is wonderful to use and accessible, that's not what it was made for. It wasn't really made to be collage material. So it's not sympathetic to the artists and what we're trying to do. So we have to make do with what we have. And I'm going to go ahead and start making these cuts. Wish me luck. So I don't know if you noticed, this was a sharp new blade and it took just some slivers off of the cradle board itself. That's wood. So it's a nice sharp blade and the cuts came out pretty clean. I probably won't be using this again. I did like that lightning though. Definitely not those pieces. Those will make it into the recycle bin somehow, some way. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my work. It's a little sticky still on the other side here. Okay, yeah, I am quite pleased with how that turned out. That doesn't look bad at all. Little space in between here, but I think we'll be okay. And I really love the lightning imagery. So I am pleased with the way that this looks. I'm going to go ahead off camera. I'm going to finish this side and the top. And when we come back, Godzilla should be done. Well, after about 3 weeks, Godzilla is finished. No more ephemera for him. Here are the sides. I think they came out pretty nicely. I added these little globes to cover up some wooden parts. And for the top and the bottom, which won't be seen too much by the regular eye when it's hanging on a wall, I just went with a solid piece of sky from a National Geographic. Sides were a little bit more ornate with the lightning and design. And here is Godzilla. So he's going to sit under another batch of books for a while. I'm going to come in and dab some glue on some loose parts that may not have gotten adhesive. And then he is going to his new home. So I'm going to get you an up-close look of Godzilla in the last frame of the video. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I had a great time, and I'll see you on the next video.